Enough?
Oh, there's another question. Can I be a little bit greedy with your time, please, and ask you another question? Of course I can. It's helpful for everyone. Thanks. About like the body and like keeping it at a level of health so that you can, give your best to the world.
Use your prettiest words.
So I have a beautiful body, and it does so much for me every day without me having to do anything much for it. It breathes, and my beautiful heart beats, and my brain releases these beautiful hormones that make me feel good, and my eyes see these amazing sights, and I get to taste these beautiful foods.
All right, now this is so beautiful. Don't spoil it. In other words, stop there.
Okay.
Stop there before you say, however. In other words, stop there. Let the momentum build from that. In other words, don't create a crossroads. Speak it the way you want it to be. Practice the vibration the way you want it to be. Practice the vibration the way the source within you knows the vibration. Because you can feel when you're speaking as source feels about you, and you can feel when you speak contrary to that. Can't you?
Definitely.
Yeah. That was easy.
So I don't have to worry about acid-alkaline balance. Do I have to eat more greens? Because I don't like green stuff as much as coffee and.
Well, that timing that we were talking about with your wit?
Yeah.
What happens when you talk pretty about your body, when you tell the story the way you want it to be, when you speak with appreciation and you focus on the positive aspects, and you notice what is functioning well and what is pleasing you, as you just did, what happens is, in the same way that you get timing with wit, you get impulses with all things. So you rendezvous with things, and you can feel the power of them. You can actually feel your body resonating with an idea of food. In other words, you can follow that impulse, that craving, that desire, and you can trust it. But you got to do the pretty talk. You got to get that momentum going. You've got to be solid in that alignment before that is the case. And once you're solid in that alignment, then not only will the ideas about what to do in terms of nutrition line up for you, but as you participate, as you actually partake of the things that the ideas were about, you will feel the harmony of it, or not. Just play with it. This takes some level of trust, but what we're asking you to do is to acknowledge that you are an extension of source energy. Do you? Do you acknowledge that you are an extension of source energy? Do you acknowledge that your inner being knows who you are and what you want? Because if you acknowledge that, then you must know that all impulses are being offered for you. And as you are in vibrational sync with who you are, those impulses will be very clear. We haven't talked about it much in these days yet, but there is a pattern that so many humans follow that's about observing conditions. And you observe the conditions not only of your own experience, but of so many others. And then you take those manifestations or those conditions or those, let's call them what they really are, results of vibrations, and you pigeonhole them and catalog them, and you come to decisions about how to behave. And we say, it's going about it in such an awkward way because you're not taking into consideration any of the vibrations that produced those conditions. You're just evaluating the rightness or the wrongness, the I like it or that I don't like it of the conditions. And in doing so, you limit yourselves drastically because as you're looking at conditions that have already become results, you have very little control in the way you feel about them. And as you have very little control in the way you feel about them, then what happens is you just produce more vibration that produces more of those conditions. So when we ask you to be less conditional, in fact, when we ask you to be unconditional, that's what we're talking about when we ask you to use the pretty words that feel good. Words that don't have anything to do with the condition. We're not asking you to give us an accurate description of what is. You're never going to hear that from us. We will never ask you to give us an accurate description of what is, unless it is your intention to perpetuate in every detail exactly what is. What we're asking you to do is to ignore what is while you speak prettier words and think prettier thoughts, better feeling words and better feeling thoughts, so that you're in the receptive mode of what your inner being knows about what you want relative to all things. And so when you feel like you want something to eat, after you've done this for a while, and you follow through with that, you will be satisfying cellular requests of your physical body. Your physical body is consciousness. There are trillions of cells, each of them consciousness, and each of them knowing what they prefer for their best thriving, you see. But so many people are ignoring altogether the communication that's coming from their cells, and instead they're trying to eat out of a book, or they're trying to eat in order to not have the results that somebody else had, when they don't even know what thoughts caused those results. For you to be making changes in your behavior based upon what other people are living, rather than paying attention to your own guidance system and following the impulses that comes from your own guidance system that is precisely tailored to give you exactly what you're asking for, to fulfill each and every desire that you've ever asked for, we think is really going about it in the long, hard, and not very wise way. So we would feel appreciation for the books that have been written, and we would feel appreciation for all the people that are trying to guide you in so many different ways about so many different things. But we would begin beating the drum of, I have an inner being who knows. I have an inner being who incrementally knows the details of my physical body and knows exactly what is necessary for me to get to the physical results that I'm wanting. And I'm going to get there in an unconditional way. I'm going to get there by saying the pretty words, by thinking the best feeling thoughts on every subject in the world, by making lists of positive aspects about anything that gets my attention on a regular basis, until I've tuned myself into the receptive mode on subject after subject. And then I'm going to follow my impulse about everything. And it is our promise to you that when you follow your impulse, after you've been tuned into that source energy for a while, everything will please you as it comes. Think about how the food that you eat, think about it. Let's just think about the food that you eat. So there it is, and this is a good time to think about it because there is such beautiful food around you here. So here's this beautiful food, and it is presented before you, and you are putting it in your mouth. Don't you think it's interesting that there's just not a cupcake that shows up over here and a piece of salmon that shows up over here? That food is digested by your body. It is turned into energy. It is turned into chemistry. It is turned into cellular food. The desire of the cells and the expectation of the cells has so much to do with the way that food becomes the energy that you are utilizing. The words that you use affect the way the cells do what they do. So in the same way that we're talking to you about the receptive mode and the vibration that you are in the receiving mode, that you are turning into the results, that's the same thing on a bulkier way that is happening with the food that you eat. Can you imagine if you got out ahead of it vibrationally so that you were inspired to the food that you eat? You will discover that you are saying no to a lot fewer things. You will discover that you are saying yes to many more things that you really want, because you will have your vibration in a place where it will utilize the benefits that are there. And there is benefit in everything that you eat. There is benefit in everything that you eat. But so often you block the benefit by condemning it as you eat it. I should not be eating this, you say. Or you feel guilty while you are eating it. You see what we're getting at? The cells of your body are in steady concert conversation with the vibration of your source. And once you make that connection, you're going to discover that there is so much abundance and so much wonderful nutrition available to you that you've been depriving yourself of even while you eat the food that contains it.
What about like smoking? What about like, sometimes I like to have a little toke on a joint. It's like, it's so naughty because drugs are bad. Drugs are bad. But so when the state of like just relaxation and, you know, bliss and euphoria, it's such an instant, easy access way to, although having said that.
Well, here's what we think. We think that you should completely disregard your guidance system and not follow any impulse that you get. And you should follow the rules and regulations that are put out by a government that is hell-bent on punishing you for anything that gets in their way.
Yeah, screw you, government.
And that's not exactly what we said. Those are not pretty words.
That's my rebellious spirit.
Those are not pretty words.
And so recently I listened to you say that having a rebellious spirit can actually be a value.
Anytime you're pushing against anything, it is not a value. But following your own heart is a value. And so others see people who follow their own heart as rebellious because they don't do what they tell them to do. We've enjoyed this interaction immensely.
Thank you.